After 2 days of closing arguments and 10 hours of deliberation, a jury found Casey Anthony not responsible for the death of her 2-year-old daughter. Everyone was convinced of her guilt, however. So what happened? We're going to be talking about that as Kababayan LA starts right now. It's also Talk Tuesday today on Kababayan LA, and so later on makikilala po natin at makakausap natin Dr. Frida Brookshire. You used to remember her. She was a mainstay in Todas, an 80s or a comedy hit in the Philippines during the 80s. She was Frida Fonda, and now she is Dr. Frida Brookshire. So you get to talk to her, ask her how she's been, or if you have any dental problems that you need to consult with her. That's today on Kababayan LA. But before that, like I said earlier, the biggest news right now all over America and sometimes even outside of America, the verdict for Casey Anthony. At kasama po natin sa ating linya ng telepono, Attorney Karina Castañeda. She was a prosecutor for 10 years and now she has her own practice as a criminal defense lawyer. Karina Castañeda, hello and welcome to Kababayan LA.
Hi, Janelle. How are you?
I am good, Karina, but just as stunned as the rest of America as we found out the verdict earlier on the Casey Anthony case. A lot of people cannot believe that she was found not guilty. In your assessment as an expert, what is your take on this?
I mean, your first reaction, is wow, right? But, I mean, I think this just exemplifies, and it's clear that the criminal system and the prosecution, it's not about what you know, but what you can prove in court. And clearly the jurors, these 7 women and 5 men, did not feel that the prosecution proved every element of, the murder charge and the aggravated child abuse charge beyond the reasonable doubt.
And proving somebody's guilt, Karina, is upon the prosecutor. And you've been a prosecutor. Tell me, how difficult is it?
You have 12 jurors in this case and 5 alternates. You have to convince all those people. I mean, there was no direct evidence. It was all circumstantial. And the best motive that they can give to those jurors was that, Casey Anthony wanted to party. And that was her motive for killing her 2-year-old daughter. There was nobody that ever witnessed her abusing the child, even being mean to the child. So it was a really challenging case. They wanted the highest punishment that we could do on a defendant, which is putting her in death row. So the stakes were very, very high for prosecution.
Do you think prosecution was wrong in that they overcharged so many charges on this case, and then at the same time they really aimed super high with the death row? Do you think they could have had a better chance if they maybe lessened the charges, or maybe they just went for life in prison without possibility of parole rather than putting her on death row?
We're all going to second guess, right now, that because they're found not guilty. But in all fairness to the prosecution, cases have been won, and I've won cases that are just, when I was a prosecutor, based on circumstantial evidence. But you have to, the jurors are not supposed to think of sentencing, right? It's the judge that will decide about sentencing. But in their minds, they knew, I think these jurors knew that if they found Anthony guilty, that she would be on death row. And you're looking at her, and she's what, in her 20s? And so I think the sympathy factor came in. But we are not privy to any sort of negotiations that occur between the prosecution and the defense.
What about the lesser charges, Karina? Aggravated child abuse. Could they have found her guilty at least on that?
Well, there's no prior reports of, Department of Children's Services being called into her house. There was no direct eyewitness that she ever was, had ever even been punishing the child or being mean to the child.
Right.
There's never been any sort of person that has, gone on the stand and said she was not a good mother.
Okay, so now, Karina, we hear this time and time again, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So obviously there was doubt as to her guilt, Karina, but could the prosecution have done something different? Or what does this tell us about our jury system?
Well, this is, and I've been in and out of this this trial, just like many spectators have been, the forensic evidence, much like the DNA that was used in O.J., Janelle, you know, a lot of jurors don't have scientific backgrounds. We all don't have scientific backgrounds. And to keep, for 33 days, they were listening to all these really heavy-duty forensic evidence. And sometimes they just gloss over this, and they just go, okay, but, you know, and the defense team did a really good job by just saying, but have they proven it beyond a reasonable doubt? They kept saying that within, you know, his closing argument. The defense attorney kept saying, but have they proven it beyond a reasonable doubt? Have they proven it beyond a reasonable doubt?
Okay. And so now, Karina, moving forward, what's going to happen to Kaylee Anthony's death? Is it just going to be like that? No one's going to be held responsible. And then at the same time, what's going to happen to Casey Anthony?
Well, okay. On Thursday, she's going to have sentencing on the 3 misdemeanor charge that she was found guilty of, okay? And the judge, you know, he is the presiding judge in that state court. So he has been in custody for nearly 3 years until this case went to trial. So he may find that she's time served, because most misdemeanor charges, even in Florida, the maximum is 1 year, but he could still sentence her to 2 more years in custody. So the end result could be, you know, having more custody time, but realistically, she could be walking out that day, this Thursday. And now, in terms of further investigation, you know, they've spent so much money. I'm referring to the police, the county. They've spent so much money, I think, in government resources. And I don't know if the taxpayers in that county, in that state of Florida, is going to want another
spending on that again, right?
Right.
Yeah. But the sad thing about all this, Karina, is a child is dead. She's 2 years old, and as a mom, just in closing, you have the last 30 seconds. Your thoughts on this?
You know, okay. In my heart, do I think she's guilty? I don't think all these lies that came out during trial are without merit, okay? I think the prosecution said it best. You know, when you're guilty, you lie. And as a mom, if my child was drowning, the minimum you do, Janelle, is call paramedics. She didn't even do that.
Exactly.
Okay?
Anyways,
so these are all acts of a guilty person, don't you think?
Yes, and that is why apparently, though, the jury did not see that, or maybe they didn't focus on that. But for now, Karina, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today and breaking down this case.
Thank you, Janelle. See you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. That was Karina Castañeda. We were talking about the Casey Anthony verdict. A lot of people don't agree with what the jury came up with, but we're going to be discussing that in the coming days here on the show. Pero sa pagbabalik po ng Kababayan LA, regular Talk Tuesday programming with Yahoo PH Top Trends in the Philippines. Don't go away.